Fala pessoal, sou Pedro Delgado, mais conhecido como Rato de Show, e hoje, a convite da SubSolo, tive o prazer de entrevistar o Jacob Bannon, vocalista da banda Converge, uma das precursoras do metalcore, que vai estar fazendo sua estreia aqui no Brasil no próximo dia 10 de novembro, em apresentação única em São Paulo, lá no Cine Joia. Então chega de enrolação, vamos ver como ficou esse bate-papo e espero que vocês curtam.
Let's get
All right.
going. So, yeah, I mean, you guys announced the Latin American tour for a while
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
And we all know that usually us Latins are really warm and really happy about when pretty much everyone say that they are coming here. But how was like the overall reception from both fans on the side of the fans and the band as well when you guys first announced the tour for Latin America?
Sure. Well, so I guess it's been a long time coming, right? So,
Yeah,
it's one of those opportunities that just never came to us, at least that I know of. Whether it's been passed through to folks like, hey, you should come, like whatever, like no actual formal offers have already happened for a long time. So it was really wonderful for it to finally come together so we can actually do something. So we started planning that, announced that for the spring. And actually, before that, we were going to come over, was sick of it all during right before COVID. And then COVID essentially put everybody's plans on pause, including ours. So that went away entirely, and I was like, all right, well, there's that. We couldn't logistically make that tour happen again, and I think they even went over and redid their dates before we did. We managed to reschedule for the spring. Then Kurt got sick and has been dealing with some health issues since then, and his recovery took longer than I think not that he anticipated. Just took a long time. And he's still going down that path, but he's healthy enough to be able to tour and stuff. So we were really, we don't really cancel things very often. It's pretty rare. So for us to do that, it was, a serious thing, or at the very least postpone something, right? So it was a very serious thing. Thankfully, his health improved enough to be able to go and start playing again. So we played our first shows this year. I believe it was in August, something like that. It was like pretty recently, and people were really receptive to us rescheduling over in Latin America because we just didn't know. Or like, are people going to be like, hey, these guys are never coming? Like, they keep trying. But luckily, the promoters were awesome, and the folks that we've communicated with so far, at least via the internet and email and whatnot, have all been super cool about just us coming there. We've had friends who've traveled there, and then we've had friends that have traveled there in bands, and also bands and also friends in bands that have been telling us for years to go over from Brazil. Like the Cavaliers have been telling us forever that we need to get to Brazil, and we're like, yeah, we know, let's do it, take us. I think we mentioned it to Igor before, and I think we even mentioned it to the modern version of Sepultura as well. We're like, take us, because we're friends with both parties. And we're like, okay, let's go. But it just, logistically obviously never happened. And we're just psyched to be able to go there, play some proper shows, and experience, the subculture there as it is. So yeah, we're psyched.
yeah, sure. I mean, the time has finally come, right? And
Mhm.
I only can imagine how frustrated at first it might came with all the COVID related. And it was something that we all, right, had to take some time to not only take care of ourselves but dealing with, right? And
Absolutely. Just understand it, and just, understand what we were dealing with. I think for a long time, it was, I mean, it's still the great unknown, right? But back
yeah,
then, especially, it was the great unknown, and is the world ending tomorrow? So we had that going on as well. So There was a myriad of push and pulls of in directions of like, are we even going to be able to go be a band again? You know, is that even going to be a thing to play live music? You know, that was very much a reality for a lot of our folks. You know, just trying to figure out like, is this going to even exist as the way we, you know, as the way we see it in a year or two? And thankfully, we're in a good spot with all that. And yeah, I can't say really any more positive things to the fact that I'm just so excited to be able to go actually properly go.
Wow, nice. And as far as the overall band's expectation for your debut here in Brazil,
Yeah.
would you say that perhaps we will be seeing like these 4 years of frustration getting unleashed on the stage?
Oh, that's interesting. I never really thought of it that way. But I guess to a degree, there's probably a little bit of that in everything that we do right now as a band, right? Like there was a lot of pause for a lot of reasons, and in that time, it's not like you were just in this state of stasis. We're not just you know in hypersleep. We're trying to be creative, try to live our lives, try to do things and exist. And yeah, I think that oftentimes a lot of the stresses that we feel within our own personal lives, including those things come out in song, and those things come out in the art and the creative output that we're putting out into the world at any given time. So it's basically a mirror, right? So you go up and you play, like we might be really thankful for being there, and it might be a positive show, but it's probably be pretty aggressive too, you depending on the mentality. And yeah, I think that's where we're coming at it right now. You know, we just played just a few weeks ago, and it very much felt that way. You still feel that, yeah, there's a fire for sure.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. Looking forward. And another one for you. Whenever Converge names pops out, we kind of always see Jane Doe's coming along. Like it's a super cool album that got really good reviews. And what would you say that is the overall influence that the album had on the future of the band and the overall trajectory for the scene itself, you know, when it comes to hardcore and the metal scene? What do you say?
Sure.
It had like kind of for you guys like a pre Jane Doe and after Jane Doe, would you say time?
No, not for us, but for the audience, maybe. But you have to understand, we've been a band for a long time, and we started our band as teenagers, right? In high school, like, and that's where we were kind of cutting our teeth and just kind of figuring out what we wanted to be as a band. Kurt joined Converge basically right before our first show. And so it's basically been ourselves and then later Ben and Nate, plugging away creatively, slowly evolving this thing to be, to basically be a version of a band that we'd want to see. And so we've always had kind of like this like single mindset to make, pure creative art and music. And that's pretty much it. Doesn't resonate with us, we don't release it. And we've had that mentality since we started. So there's a Peter Pan syndrome that happens with a lot of these, with a lot of music, especially with folks that start their creative lives early, right? So we're still very much locked into that mentality in some ways, not the character, but like the basic core mission has never changed. And each record is merely a chapter in that line as we go. And that record is one of those things. At that time when that record was released, some folks enjoyed it, but a lot of folks didn't, and it got panned in the traditional like music press quite a bit because there wasn't really an understanding of what we were doing or any of the other bands that were kind of part of this new this new sub genre that was kind of kicking off of more chaotic metallic hardcore music. And so people just didn't know. It's not that people didn't, they didn't know the language. There wasn't a language yet. And so we were just out there being, just loud, ugly, really abrasive, really emotionally intense, and people weren't ready for that. They were used to genres that were more stereotypical or at least defined, like the regular traditional death metal, traditional thrash, traditional New York hardcore, traditional punk, like the Exploited, like stuff like that, oi, whatever, like that. Those things were defined. What we were doing wasn't really defined, so people didn't really get it. So when the record came out, and the records predating that too, yeah, we had a small sort of scene and community that was growing around us, alongside us, other bands and just the audience in general. But it wasn't like this. It wasn't like this like big outpouring of support or anything for our band. If at the very least, it was the opposite, because again, people were just kind of like, I don't know what this is. Back then they would, like press folks would send you, once a record was kind of done and promoted, they would send almost like a summary of all the press for the record. And I got like this big binder that they sent it, and I still have it up, and it's still here, like 100 feet away from me. And it's mainly negative reviews, or at the very least, like negative or like middle reviews, and it's because it was speaking to folks that were only into the more traditional metal and power metal at the time, and hardcore. Like, we were too weird in metal for hardcore kids. Usually we were definitely too metal for punk kids. And we were just way too weird for metal. Like, it just wasn't, we didn't look the part. We were just kind of doing our own thing. So we weren't welcome with open arms. So it took a while, and our whole genre, I think, probably also experienced that for a while as well, at least in the beginning, at least like a handful of years. So I don't look at that record any different than any other record. And I don't celebrate it the way, probably the way people do in retrospect. And that's fine. It's not meant to be that for me, I see, like, I don't really look back at our catalog that much anyway in those terms. But if I did, like, I put that hat on now, I look at the next album, the Fail Me album, as the first proper modern Converge record, where it's the four of us that are the core of the band that have put in all the work and the time and the effort creatively to be what we are. But teach your own. Everybody's got an entry place into music, and everyone is valid. It's just coming from one of the creators of that record. That's like the way I tend to look at things.
Oh, that's awesome, and that makes total sense. And even nice to hear it from you, because people start to making assumptions and perceptions of the artwork. And
sure, yeah, and that's the thing. That's the wonderful thing about art and music, right? Like,
yeah,
it can grow after the fact. There's artists I discovered decades after they're gone, and I connect with at a later date. And that's a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with, coming in at different places. And, people can come to the Jane record now and look at it and go like, oh, they were really doing something, very unique for the time that still resonates today. That's super cool. But for me, it's more, there's so much more to it at that, like there's the psychological aspect of the emotional weight of songs. There's the process of making the record. There's losing a band member during that time. And then all of the work that we all put in terms of time and touring at that time. I think about all those things. Those are the things I reflect on. So it's a very complicated and multi-layered subject, from a creator standpoint.
Yeah, I only can imagine. And like, even like an kind of as an additional question, but not like going too far from this realm. What would be your perception regarding like Blood Moon One? Because it's interesting to think about it, because back then you have like everything that you pretty much said about how people weren't used to you guys' work, but now we have, like, as time passed, people are kind of familiar with your work and kind of having the same assumptions of regarding what they would expect. And then we see like this release that goes, even if when we do this kind of comparison, it's really different from it, and it's beautiful, but it's very different. And your partnership with Chelsea, which we know that happened like prior on four shows, if I'm not mistaken, that you guys played along, but now releasing like this full-length album that has like this really different atmosphere and very complex and intrinsic kinds of new aspects of music. Are you seeing like the same different perspectives between what you are, what you guys on as the artist standpoint saw, and what the audience are kind of absorbing it? How is like the nowadays sensation and perspective regarding that?
It's interesting because, the perception, I guess the perception is a bit different over time, right? Like, people know that we're a band that has a fair amount of dynamics within what we do, even though there might be certain aspects of our band that are so just forward facing that that's what people will generalize your band as, right? So I'm the yelling guy in our band, right? So I'm the yelling crazy guy. That's who I am. I'm a lot more than that as a person, just like you're more than that as yourself. Um, musically too, that rings true for our band with that record. There's moments of aggression in that record, but there's also a lot more atmosphere that we typically put into a Converge release. But Converge releases regular Converge albums, like 4-piece versions of our band. They have dynamics as well, but we just don't lean into them fully, like as we did with the Blood Moon release and doing that version of our band. It's funny when we were writing together and sending ideas back and forth together. I think that was Kurt that mentioned this. And he was just like Chelsea wants to rock, and she's like, I want to go. We're like, let's get heavy. And we're like, this is great, because like we want to do the opposite. And so what you get is like a really cool, creative collaboration that has us both kind of exploring those territories,
Yeah,
and it's
like opposite poles aligning.
Yeah, and there's a push and pull, and there's a magnetism to it, it just ended up becoming a really beautiful thing. As far as like public perception, like how folks take these things in, I try not to. You can't fully shelter yourself from those things, but I try to, because I just want to make stuff. I want to be able to make stuff and have a clear sort of mindset going into making things. I don't want my creative output as a person collaborating with other folks to be influenced by even more people or more opinions. I know what I like and what I want something to be, and so I just kind of stick to that. So I don't try not to pay attention much to that stuff once it's out there. but I know it was well received and people took it well. And, we hope to continue it. We have a ton of material that we, we have in various states of finished and unfinished, and we have, future plans for that stuff. But right now, we're just trying to finish a proper Converge record that we've been excited about for a long time. And Chelsea and Ben are really pretty immersed in that world right now because they had a new album come out pretty recently as well. So they've been touring and doing a lot of stuff. But we'll all come together at some point down the road for sure.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. And another one that I had for you is that, and when I like, as soon as I go to your guys' stuff on Spotify, the thing that strikes me most is like the art covers. Like even when you came in like today, as soon as your image went, I was like, wow, like it's so appealing and beautiful, the artwork from all covers. And it's different because it's not like when you have like those kind of covers where, oh, I just want a landscape and maybe this and that and this and that, and you kind of spread all together and call it for the day. It seems like very interesting and very appealing, and it kind of passed through the feelings and emotions that you kind of finds and encounters even on the songs and on the lyrics. How would you say that are those process like put it together? Do it yourself is like really close to the art aspect of like the artwork aspect of for the covers? How
Sure.
This element is alongside for the covers as well, because they are like really really beautiful.
Well, thank you. That's one aspect of music that I've always enjoyed, right? It's always been powerful covers, whether it be sparse, whether it be iconic. When they tell the story of a record in a sort of summarized visual way, and that takes it takes a lot of thought, and it takes a lot of sometimes it happens really fast, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's a grind to get to a finished thing. But it's always been something that's been important to me as a listener of music. That's one of the things that's always connected with me is the art, the sort of long play art form. The visuals, even like on a secondary level, just band T-shirts and merchandising and stuff like that. When I was a kid, that was like the coolest thing. I would go to a show, like I could buy a record, whatever, that's fine. But I always wanted to go buy a shirt, from a band when I went to a show, because I knew that there was going to be far less of those specific shirts, and it's a moment, that moment in time. And so I've always really appreciated that aspect of what this community is and what all sort of music is, and long play art and music. So when we started kind of putting ideas together as to what this band was going to be, and we wanted to bring all the ideas and all the things that interest us in heavy music and in aggressive music and put it into one thing and one band. And one thing that has always been important to me has been the visual aspect of things. So, over time, once I got out of high school and whatnot, I continued down the path of being a visual artist, doing stuff for my band, for other bands. I graduated with my BA in design. I taught for like a year at my college after that. And then I started just doing freelance work, and I still do freelance work and art direction, design work every day for bands. That's what I do as part of the sort of my own world and the Death Wish world. I'm always doing that for folks. And a lot of stuff you actually probably that I touch, you probably never can tell that I touched, because I look at myself as more of a designer than I do anything else. Designer just kind of visually problem solves. So I'm always trying to figure out ways to enhance something, to improve upon something, to visually communicate, some ideas that could be a little difficult to do that for. For our band, Yeah, kind of has a specific style that kind of happened over time. But we also work with other artists and designers and illustrators all the time too. So there's very much a collaborative effort, but people kind of understand the idea and the character of what our band is. And so more often than not, when I do work with other people, they get it. They know what I'm trying to create, you know. And they also know that I agonize myself over Converge albums and records to make those things, you know, communicate as clearly and as powerfully as possible. And obviously, you feel that when you look at records on Spotify, even, you know, in little small digital thumbnails. And that's the test, right? It's like the poster test. When something, even at the smallest little size, can still strike something within you. And that's a really powerful thing and a powerful tool. And it's really hard to get to that point. Like, how do you do it? How do you, you know, what kind of symbolism can communicate the ideas that you have, and evoke emotion and connect with folks so people can engage with your art. It's like, it's an ongoing process, and I'm always deep in it. It's always a challenge. You know, once I finish I'm working on a client record right now for Death Wish and for this band Modern Life is War that I love dearly. After I finish that, I'll start properly getting into the new Converge record, and I'm excited about that process, even though I know it'll be challenging and emotional and psychologically taxing. But I'll do it.
Good luck with that, man. I mean,
Thank you.
I mean, I can only imagine that on top of like the artist, like musician aspect, having the designing background, it must make you like a little bit more critic that would be other people.
It does, for sure. And like, honestly, I think that's one of the blessings and curses about our band. You know, our band is pretty self-sufficient, right? So we work with labels. I own a label and distribution company. We work with Epitaph Records. We've worked with forever, but Kurt, our guitarist, is our engineer and predominant songwriter. So sonically, he will obsess over all these aspects of what he's trying to create and capture there. And my role is, you know, in that is like all the other stuff, you know, and so it can be immersive. And it takes a lot a lot creatively, psychologically, emotionally to make a record. And, you know, that's what even though there might be music that might not connect with me that other people make, I really never want to like crap on any other band or anything like that, even if it's not something that connects with me, because it's a grind to do it anyway. So even if it's not something for me, like the effort that folks put into being creative it's huge. You know, it's a huge undertaking, and it's never as I don't know. It's a lot, you know, even writing and, you know, being a journalist. I mean, it's a lot. You take on a lot to, you know, like fulfill your vision. So I appreciate anybody that's putting themselves out there for that.
It's not like something easy to perceive, like, I don't know, like running a marathon, that you kind of see the effort being pouring out. It's like something that it's manifested, right? When it comes to a more creative side, people, it's not like something that you can see how the effort and how the frustration and how the cost that ultimately takes on you. So for sure.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but it's something that I you know, I love and appreciate about music, and so it's something that in our band definitely doesn't take center stage. You know, everything takes an equal amount of the stage, but it's an integral part of what we are. Like we legitimately care about it, and we want it to be. You know, it's why not, right? It's there. People, we gotta communicate. Like that's the thing. We have the opportunity, might as well not make it a blank record, right?
Yeah, for sure. And for those who will be listening to us and are looking forward to see you guys live here in São Paulo next month, so really close, right?
Yeah, a couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. What can you possibly say, like kind of a little small spoilers about what folks can expect as far as the set list? Would you say that people can for sure wait for some, more iconic tracks? What would you say about how is you guys are preparing for this show?
Well, if we play a place that we haven't really gone to, we want to make sure that we cover as many bases as we can. So we will get a lot of songs in there. We at least play a couple dozen, and usually it's quite varied in terms of the album offerings and whatnot. We're not a band that is afraid to play older material. Like we don't really get stuck on like, oh, it's too old or it's too new, whatever. Like, we just do what feels right for the moment. And yeah, there'll definitely be a grip of songs from every record, every modern record for sure, and maybe a couple deep cuts mixed in there. But yeah, we'll at least play a couple dozen songs. Our sets they're not torturously long because hopefully people want to be there, but they're long. They're not like we don't do a half hour. We'll be there for like an hour and a half or two. I think last time we played like Greece, for example, a place that we didn't play for a long time. We were on. It was just us playing, no other bands. I think we played nearly 2 hours. So we'll get a lot in there for sure. And it'll be a physical experience, a very physical show, an abrasive show, an aggressive show, but also a positive show.
Oh, that's awesome. Would you say that even after 33 years, it still feels
Something like
like
that.
year one? The energy?
Yeah, the energy does for sure. If anything, there's a little bit more, there's probably a little more rage, because as you get older, things get more complicated. You don't get less mad. Things just get more complicated within your life and how you process things. But this is our platform. This is what we use to, get that out of us psychologically and, leave it in a positive place. So yeah, in many ways, it does feel the same. I feel the same sort of electricity, and that's why we do it.
Awesome, man. Who knows, if you see maybe a body there on the front row, I'll be saying a little hello to you.
Right on, I'll look for you, Pedro. I'll find you.
For sure. Jacob, thank you so much for your time, and it was really a joyful moment for me to interview you and how you put your thought on it. It was very, very thoughtful of you. So really thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, and you've been great. Your English was great. I know you were saying that it's been a minute since you've done it before. You nailed it. You did a wonderful job, and
nice.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, have a nice flight here in a couple of weeks. I hope that you guys crush it on Latin America, and just let's put this 4-year waiting out of the wind and see what happens.
Absolutely, this will hopefully be the first of many.
Yeah, for sure, and I only can imagine that the energy of Brazilians, especially, I mean, I can't say for the other guys, but on Latin America, but at least here in Brazil, I can guarantee you that the energy and the crowd will be awesome and ready to kick some ass with you guys.
For sure, I know a fair amount of Brazilians. I'm sure it'll get rowdy.
For sure. So yeah, I mean, have a nice afternoon, I guess, on your end, and
thank you.
Yeah, have a nice rest of the week as well.
All right, thank you, Pedro. Take care of yourself.
You too, man. Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.